A Guide to the Charming and Care of Dragons and Other Magical Creatures, written by Actius Weaver. Section 1, Introduction. Dragons and dragon-like creatures. Before we get into the discussion, it should be noted that this section includes both dragons and dragon-like creatures. It should be known that a dragon is a creature with 4 legs and either 2 or 4 wings. Wyverns, which have 2 legs and 2 wings, featherflights, which only have wings, and any other aerial creature with a different number of either type of limb are not true dragons. Everyday people may call them dragons, but they are not. They are pseudo-dragons. Regardless of this, they will be included with the true dragons. There is no true reason to separate them. The process of charming a true dragon is not different enough from the charming of a pseudo-dragon to create a separate distinction. Thus, this section includes any aerial creature that is neither a bird nor a bat. For the reader's convenience, however, we will be sure to note at the beginning of each chapter whether a creature is a true dragon or a pseudo-dragon. Section 1, Chapter 1, Featherflights. Featherflight dragons are a pseudo-dragon species that live in the Dragon Empire, Elaine, Northern Castellanos, and Toragris. They are a long and snake-like with feathers instead of scales, reaching a length of 40 to 60 yards and a wingspan of 60 to 80 yards. These creatures are the longest and widest pseudo-dragon species known to still be alive today. Their coloring ranges from a light dusty brown to a deep reddish brown. Females have white spotting to blend in with the forest floor, while males have patches of color near the eyes and the end of their tail tips. These colors can range from red, orange, yellow, different shades of green, typically either a very light muted green or a green that is similar to that of a mallard, and in domesticated featherflights, a color that is similar to that of a peacock has been seen. However, we are not sure if this this coloring appears in wild featherflights. This seems to help them attract mates. These creatures are not considered birds for 2 key reasons. One is their lack of legs, and the second is their teeth, which range in size and shape, indicating their omnivorous nature, which we will cover further in the chapter. Beginning with the temperament, there are many important things to note about featherflight dragons. A common rumor is that wild featherflight dragons are aggressive and extremely territorial. In reality, this is false. Wild featherflights are docile, and some are even afraid of humans. The only time during their lifespan in which they are aggressive is when they are guarding a clutch of eggs or hatchlings. Even then, they are only known to attack when an individual gets close to their nest or young. Domesticated featherflight dragons are known to be highly trainable and obedient. For this reason, when young charmers are beginning their craft, featherflights are often the first dragons they pet. The best age to take a featherflight, both from a ranch or the wild, is 2 to 2.5 years of age. Any earlier and they will grow to have attachment issues. Any later in their trainability window shortens dramatically. At 5 years old, they will start to lose their ability to learn new commands. A common rumor is that wild featherflights are untrainable. This is false. As far as we know today, there is no difference between the trainability of wild and domesticated featherflights. Research today actually encouraged the training of wild featherflights. Annette Dothan, renowned field researcher and publisher of Flying Serpents, has stated that domesticated featherflights have such a shallow gene pool that they seem to be all descended from 20 or so different individual dragons. According to Lucas Erickson, a researcher that specializes in the domestication of dragons, wrote a paper about the domestication of featherflight dragons titled The Featherflight Problem, in which he goes into great detail about the difference between domesticated and wild featherflights. This was caused by the fact that the Drauvan aristocracy traditionally kept featherflights as pets. These wealthy individuals selectively bred them to look more elegant. These traits include wider tail fans, rounder and shorter snouts, and the aforementioned iridescent blue-green feathers. Because of this, domesticated featherflights have difficulties breathing and flying, and most experts encourage the charming of wild featherflights if possible. Moving on to the topic of their preferred diet, featherflights are famously omnivorous. They are capable of downing large game such as deer, longhorn sheep, and even the occasional bear. Their curved necks and long blade-like teeth are optimal for snatching fish. During the autumn moons, however, they prefer to eat vegetation. Pears, apples, and pumpkins and wild squash seem to be their favorites, at least in the wild. This seems to be because it requires less energy to eat vegetation than hunt, especially in the autumn when prey is becoming scarce and the plant matter is in abundance. Despite the fact that during the most of the year their diet is lacking in fruit, researchers have found that it is beneficial to feed them plant matter 1 to 3 times per month from winter to summer. The vitamins are good for their teeth and feathers, and the fiber is good for their digestion. Peaches, plums, blueberries, turnips, radishes, and zucchini and onions all seem to be acceptable sources of plant matter. Figs, tomatoes, and peppers all seem to be mildly toxic to them, so avoid those fruits and anything in their fruit families. Moving on to their preferred conditions, featherflights are adapted to a mountainous climate. Unless you get one from Toragris, then they are adapted to a very hot and humid climate. Yeah. Their feathers trap in heat, keeping them warm in the cold weather. They enjoy sunning themselves despite the thick feathers. If you wish to care for one, you will need to give them a large open space, enough space for them to break into a run. They will also need a medium-sized pool of water. They seem to enjoy rolling about in it as it seems to help them with thermoregulation. They require materials and space enough to build a nest. Nests are began by featherflights digging a depression in the ground and carrying branches and sticks to create walls around the depression. Afterwards, they will carry leaves, scraps of scavenged fur, and even stolen human items to create a soft bed to sleep in. Over time, they will molt feathers and the nest will grow softer. Featherflights also require enrichment in their day-to-day lives. One way to offer this is to hollow out a pumpkin and fill it with meat and allow them to roll it around until the meat falls out. Another way is to invest in a puzzle toy and fill it with raw meat or smoked fish. However, toys such as these tend to cost upwards of 300 crowns, so you may want to resort to the aforementioned pumpkin toy. They also enjoy chewing on things such as rope, wood, bone, and anything else that they can sink their teeth into. It is advised that you provide them with a thick braided rope, a large bone, or some other object for them to chew on. If you do not provide them with such a thing, they will chew on your items. Another way to provide the required enrichment is to exercise them until they are too tired to be bored. Typically, on a day-to-day basis, they require an hour to an hour and a half of hard riding per day. If you stretch this out to 2 hours, they will likely be too tired to get into trouble. While featherflights are one of the most popular picks for beginner charmers for their high trainability, it is important to note that these dragons are extremely energetic and require a lot of exercise. It is also important to note how featherflights behave and look during their youth. When they are newly hatched, they are blind and completely reliant on their parents. The mother will feed the young and stay with them in the nest for 5 months. During this time, she and the hatchlings will be completely reliant on the father, who will hunt and gather for them. When they are newly hatched, they are one solid color and barely larger than a yard in length. Over the course of these 5 months, however, they will develop white spotting regardless of sex and grow to a length of 3 yards. After the 5 months is up, featherflights will allow their young out of the nest. By this time, they will have their eyes open and be very, very curious. Parents will take turns watching the young while the other goes out in search of live prey to teach them how to hunt. These young dragons are still vulnerable to numerous different threats despite their large size. They can be threatened by various different predators, such as snares, nightwalkers, poppy leopards, and even humans, as they are considered a delicacy in many human cultures because humans don't seem to be very intelligent. After about a year of this, parents will begin to take their young on hunting trips. Parents will do this together, as featherflight clutches generally consist of 3 to 5 hatchlings, and they are naturally a handful. The young will have grown to 7 to 10 yards, and the males will begin to show signs of their colors. White patches will form around their eyes and tail tips and will eventually fade into whatever color they will exhibit during their adult life. A year will pass and they will go through puberty. They will experience sudden growth spurts, and the males will lose their white spotting and gain their colors. Shortly after, they will leave the nest. Parents will stay together as featherflights mate for life. Typically, they will wait a year or 2 years before having another clutch. When not in the wild, featherflights live up to 45 years, but the most common age ranges from 35 to 40. If one keeps good care of their featherflight, feeding them properly, helping them with their dental care, and not allowing them to get into any fights, they should live a very long, happy life. Despite charmers' love for featherflights, it is common to hear that they are the least intelligent of all dragons because they are unable to speak any human languages. This is false. An orphan clutch was raised by a field researcher, Vincent McLean. He had a habit of talking to his test subject, and all 4 of the hatchlings learned to speak Dragon fluently. 4 years later, this experiment was repeated with a female featherflight named Daffodil, with the things she said recorded in detail. She proved to be quite intelligent, with a vocabulary consisting of roughly 2,500 words. She was capable of being quite eloquent, and further field research leads us to believe that featherflights have their own language. Their vocalizations are complex and have a wide range of combinations, and these different combinations put together in different ways yields different results. This implies that they have complex grammar structure in their own language. It can be inferred that they merely have trouble learning a second language, and any featherflight that is raised from hatching will learn to speak the language of whoever raised them. Doing this would be incredibly illegal, however, as any country that allows featherflights within their borders outlaws the selling of eggs, as well as the selling of any hatchlings under 20 moons old. An alternative to buying them from a ranch would naturally be to go into the wild and steal an egg from a nest. However, this would surely result in whoever doing this being eaten immediately. I urge anyone who's reading this or listening to this to not go through the trouble of trying to get a featherflight egg. It is not worth getting arrested or getting eaten just to have a talking featherflight pet. There are other dragons and pseudo-dragons that can talk that do not require egg snatching or the purchase of illegal eggs to get that dragon to talk.